Welcome to the Influencer Show with your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Influencer Show where I interview people who can help influence the way you live life in a number of different ways. I'm your host, Sarva, and today we have a very special guest for us, Pete Craig. So if you'd like to introduce yourself to listeners and let them know a little bit about you.
Thanks a lot, Trey. As you said, my name is Pete Craig. I'm an entrepreneur, coach, advisor, and mentor to individuals and to businesses. I've been a business owner, operator, and C-suite manager for 30 years now. The last 10 of those in the tech startup space and the information technology space. So and now we're playing around with some different projects to support change makers in the world, but also to support human consciousness.
That is absolutely amazing. And why don't you tell the listeners why you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? I guess at the core, I love helping people. I love seeing people achieve their full potential. So that's what always drives me, is just helping people to achieve the things that they want to achieve and helping to push them. So push them so as they think a little bit bigger. They think in a limitless way, and push themselves as far as they can, because you don't know what's possible until you do that.
Definitely. I think that's something that people often struggle with, because when it comes to thinking outside the box and just stepping out of their comfort zone as a whole, they are really scared of the fact what if it doesn't work, things like that. But it's just about giving it a try, because then you don't know until you actually give it a try, really.
Absolutely, yeah. It's we're conditioned to think and believe certain things, and that's why as a coach, one of the things I do as a coach and as a mentor is just challenge people's existing thoughts and processes around what's possible, and just help them to see that actually there's unlimited opportunities for them if they just relax and are able to bypass some of the conditioning that they've perhaps had earlier on in their lives.
Definitely agree. That's something that people just need to wake up to, the fact that sometimes they need to let go of the old things in order to move on to bigger and better things. And what would you say has been the biggest influence on you that you wish you had known sooner?
Biggest influence. I don't think there's any one thing. I think it's a combination of things. When I look at life now and look at the availability of information now, it's a completely different space. So you as you are and your brothers and sisters are blessed because you have such awareness of and such accessibility to a broad scope of information, which when I was your age wasn't possible. The only way to find things out was to learn from your parents or to read books, or watch one of the 4 TV channels that were available, not the hundreds of TV channels that are available now. So for me, it's been a gradual learning. It's been a gradual stripping away. So there's not been any one specific thing that I would point to. It's just been a constant inquiry to learn more, a constant inquiry and a constant belief that there is more and that we are here for more. So that's really the how that's developed for me.
I totally agree with that. That's actually really interesting and amazing, really, because it's just simply being aware of the fact that everything that has happened for a reason to get you to this stage.
Exactly.
And how do you then prefer to influence others to change where they live their lives for you better?
That's all about leadership, and leadership in my opinion, in my view, is going first. So leading by example. So doing things first, not expecting people to do things that you're not prepared to do yourself, and leading by example. And give you an example of this. When my first managerial position was as I was one of the youngest nightclub managers in the United Kingdom, and so at the age of 18, I was in charge of a nightclub, and most of the other people in the business were older than me. Staff were older than me, customers were older than me, And there were kind of like opportunities, or there were times when I would ask a member of staff to undertake a particular task, a particular project that needed doing, and one always stands out for me, and that was someone had been sick in the toilets, and I'd asked one of the staff to go and clean it for us, so as other customers weren't exposed to that, and they pushed back and they didn't want to do it. So rather than kind of get into an argument or try and say, you've got to do it because I'm the boss, recognizing that I was clearly younger, didn't have as much perhaps authority in their eyes, what I did was I just said, okay, that's fine, I'm going to do it. So I went and got the cleaning materials, did it myself. So demonstrated that I was prepared to do it. It wasn't just me as the boss saying, you've got to do it, I'm not going to do it, it's your job, it's not my job. I did it, and then when I came back to them, I said, right, next time I ask you to do that, I said, I expect you to do it. So I demonstrated leadership by doing myself, and it's kind of like always been my ethos is to lead by example. So lead by my actions and let other people see how I conduct myself, and use that as a way to influence other people's behaviours.
That's really, really interesting, because then by leading by example, you then encourage others to take responsibility and then do the same.
Absolutely.
And what would you say people should do to stay motivated during moments of crisis?
It's really it's a really pertinent question right now, because there's a lot of people that are challenged with that. It's what you've got to understand, or what I encourage people to try and kind of get to grips with, this idea that most of what we come into contact with in our everyday lives is not within our control. There is very little that is within our control. And once you understand that, and can kind of surrender to that, then you reduce the stress buildup, because you're no longer trying to control things. So we have a tendency to try and we see what's going on. We can't go out. We can't do this. We can't do that, and we push back against it, and we kind of fight against it. Or we kind of have negative thoughts around those situations. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what you say or what you do. You can't change that situation. So if you can't change it, then kind of surrender to it, and actually focus on the things that you can change. Focus on the things that you can control. So what I would say to people is, at this time, while things are challenging, while we are restricted, think about what it is that you really want. What things do you want to do? Maybe there's something you've always wanted to learn, a book you wanted to read, another language you wanted to learn how to speak, and use your time to do that thing, because those things are then positive. They're things that you can control, and because you can control them, then it elevates your own mood and your own feeling of self-worth.
Definitely, I think that's actually really important, because then, as a result of realizing what you can control and what you can't, it then gives you the choice and the wisdom as well to just know what actually matters, because then you then not only take ownership for what you do, but then this is out of my hands and I can't do this. There's no point arguing about this. It's just about taking control of your life. Yeah,
absolutely. That's it. Spot on.
And what would you say is your passion?
My passion is, like I said before, it's kind of helping other people. My passion is seeing other people grow, seeing other people fulfill their potential, and living to my highest value, which is giving and serving.
I think that's actually really important how you said living to your highest value, or even version, because when people often partake in exercise or just anything in life, really, they do it oh, it's all right, but it's about just doing things to the highest levels, so that way you can not only get the highest results, but you can have the highest impact on others around you.
Yeah.
And if you had a megaphone and you could say one thing to the world that would have a lasting influence, what would it be and why?
I mean, there's a throwaway one that I would say, which is, first of all, just wake up. But that's not perhaps as productive as it could be. But yeah, the reality is, most people just need to actually wake up and realize that they have much more power within themselves than they realize. But yeah, in reality, I think the biggest thing I would invite people to do is kind of like just question more, ask more questions, ask more questions about what they're being asked to do, why they're being asked to do things, and and feel into whether that resonates with them or not. Because I think once we get to that point, once we start to really understand who we are at our core, then a number of things happen. Firstly, we feel kind of like fulfilled, but secondly, we also then kind of like connect with our genius. And once we're in our genius, then we become much more creative. And as someone who's much more creative, then we can have a much bigger impact on the world.
I definitely agree. It's just about like finding your strengths and working on those, because then you're then able to delegate other things to your team if there's anything that you seem to either like struggle with or not as good at, because then it helps to like put all your attention into one thing and just help like get the most out of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's in schools, we're often taught to kind of work on the things that we're not good at. In reality, my own opinion, and this is something I've done for a long time in business, is actually focus on my strengths and then find other people to support me in the areas where I'm perhaps weak, or where I don't feel a passion. So if there's an area, numbers, I can do numbers, but it's not my flow. It doesn't light me up. It doesn't get me excited. So although I could do it, I know that if I'm doing that, then it's taking my focus away from things that I could be much, much more impactful with. And so I would rather find someone else who can do that piece for me.
Definitely, I totally agree. And then what advice would you then give to someone who's had their very own £1 million idea at a time like this?
Ideas are only it's a good question. Ideas is the first step. So once you've got your idea, the next step is to try and bring that into reality. A lot of people around the world have ideas all the time. We come up with ideas, we dismiss them, we let them go, we forget them. But if you've come up with an idea that you think is something that's valuable, then the first step is to validate it and make sure that there is actually a market for it. Because again, our minds will tell us that something's a good idea, but we're only looking at that particular thing through our own lens. So it's important that you validate it by taking the concept out to a wider audience and get some feedback. And initially, that might just be from friends and family. But again, I would take it a step further, because friends and family will always, in the majority of cases, will just give you positive feedback. So take it a little bit wider and get some feedback from perhaps someone who's in the industry that you're looking to break into with your idea, and ask them for some feedback. Then once you've got some positive feedback and it feels like it's something that can be built out, then start to work towards, okay, so if this is the end goal, what do I need to do to get there? And break it down backwards. So this is where you're aiming to get to. What are the steps that need to happen? So you chunk it down into smaller pieces. So rather than thinking, this is one of the challenges a lot of people have. They have ideas, and those ideas are big. Those ideas are bold, and they could be world changing. But they think of them, and they don't see how they can get to that point. So the easy way to do that is to think of that point and then just break it back down. Okay, so if this is where I want to be in a year's time, 5 years time, then what do I need to, in order to achieve that? What are the steps that I need to take? And as you break something like that down, you start to identify what's necessary. Do you need money? Do you need other skills? Do you need other people to support you? Who are those people? And you start to map out and create this map to help you get to that point. And then once you've got that, the next thing I would say is just take small actions every single day to move towards it.
I think that's actually really important, because then having those little like objectives and like those goals along the way helps you to maintain consistent and steady growth. And just by having like getting team members in who are more passionate about the areas which either you're not good at or you're not as passionate about, it just helps you then put all the focus into the things that you like, and then it helps you get the most out of your days and help improve your business as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. Everything's more fun. Everything's more fun in a team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of instances, and I'll say this, I'll share this. Sometimes you have an idea and you think it's a great idea and you don't want to share it. And a lot of times people get quite caught up in ownership of an idea, in ownership of a concept, and they don't want to release that. And that's where a lot of businesses or a lot of ideas fail, is because people aren't willing to extend a hand or to open the opportunity to up to other people. The reality is, when something's an idea, before it becomes a business, before it starts making money, it has no value at all. So while it has no value, there is nothing to lose by bringing other people in. And my ethos has always been, let's focus on creating value in the business. If you can create value in a business or in an idea, then it shouldn't matter how much ownership you've got, whether you've got 20%, whether you've got 5%, whether you've got 1%. If the idea is good enough and it's strong enough and you bring the right people in, that 1% could be worth as much as 100% if you tried to do it on your own.
Exactly. Totally agree with that. Like, definitely, because then as a result, like bringing other people in on the idea, they can help better it. They can then ship it out to their network and get some key people of influence into it, who can actually then help upscale and up level the business.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what would you say is the biggest issue, or maybe even a problem, that you're aiming to solve as an influencer in your own industry?
If I think about the two projects that we're working on, right now, the first is Simply Conscious, which is much more of a grand vision, which is just kind of helping people to get more out of life. The second one is called Digital Wisdom, and Digital Wisdom's purpose is to communicate the big ideas. So anyone who's got a big idea that is capable of having an impact or transforming the world in some way, shape, or form, whether it's transforming humanity, whether it's transforming the planet, whatever it is, it's communicating those messages in such a way that it has real impact, so as it connects with people deeply, and people feel what that business or what that idea is trying to achieve. And because they feel it and because they understand it at a deep level, at a core level, then they engage with it. And by spreading those sorts of messages, then again, we kind of create transformation within the world.
That is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I think that's actually something that's actually really needed at a time like now, because everyone's at home, they're coming up with so many ideas, but they're struggling to find ways to either share it with people or just to take action on those ideas.
Yeah.
And what would you say was that pivotal point along your journey, and what did it then teach you?
The pivotal point in terms of...
Oh, just like along your journey, as a pivotal point where...
pivotal points. I think perhaps the biggest realization I had was the importance of working on projects that you enjoy and working with people that you like. Too often we find ourselves in situations where we're working in businesses or we're working on projects that no longer light us up, and we're doing them just perhaps for the money, or we're tolerating people within our social groups or within our work groups, colleagues who add nothing to us. And as a business owner, a conscious decision that I made probably 8 years ago now was that I wanted just to work with people that that I liked, that I was happy to spend time with. So although that resulted in a in a drop in potential earning, because I was now kind of filtering and turning a lot of people away, what the other consequence of that was that actually I started to enjoy what I did much more. Yeah, and I'd wake up in the morning excited and happy to be working, because the people I was working with were people that I would go out for a meal with. They're people that I would happily kind of spend an afternoon just chatting with. Yeah. So, for me, the real pivot was understanding that you have choices, and, that you can decide who you work with, you can decide what you tolerate in your life, and you can decide who you surround yourself with. And once you understand that you have that choice, you have that control, then you can start to make better choices, and those better choices then have an impact on your overall kind of well-being.
I totally agree. And it's something that people often actually underestimate the value of the people who you hold close to you, because if the people aren't as empowering, they don't push you to achieve more, then they're actually going to be bringing you down and stop you from achieving. So it's just about constantly trying to up level your inner circle and just help each other succeed and get reach different heights, and that way are then able to even bounce ideas off each other, and maybe even partnerships and stuff like that. But it's just about surrounding yourself with people who can help you either achieve more or just stay positive at all times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what would you say are the top 3 lessons that you have learned along your life journey, and how did they then influence the way you look at life?
Oh, top 3 lessons. Now you're asking. It's a long time you're asking me to think back over. Like I say, I think one of the most important ones is that realization that you have choices, and that you can control certain things, within your life. So that's definitely the first one. I would say is just know that you have choices. You don't have to follow a prescribed path, and you can make decisions as to what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate. What else? I think another one was realizing that there's more to life than just money. There's more to life than just business. And that there's nothing to prove. We don't have anything to prove. It's very easy to get caught in this trap of trying to outdo your neighbor. So your neighbor gets a new car, so you want to have a new car, so you don't lose face with your with your peers. The reality is, when you break everything down, that's not important. The important thing is how you feel inside. So I think that's perhaps another one, is actually realizing that there is no need to compete other than with yourself. And when I say compete with yourself, it's just about continual improvement. So if you've achieved something one day, then try and push yourself to achieve a little bit more the next day, and that's how you grow. You shouldn't be competing or comparing with other people, because you're not living in the same space as them. You don't have the same influences around you as them. It's one of the reasons why I don't like to give advice, because advice is very subjective. And unless your situation is exactly the same as mine was when I experienced that thing, then the advice is always going to be flawed. And final one. The final one is just not to limit your thinking. Anything's possible. And when you get really clear on what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, then things move a lot faster than you ever imagine. Your doors open far quicker, and you attract the right people that are going to help you move towards your goal. So don't limit your thinking. If you want to create a specific type of business, then don't set your sights too low. Set your sights as high as you can, in the knowledge that even if you don't reach those heights, you're still going to go much further than you would have if you'd gone with plan A.
Mm. Uh, I think that's actually really important because then, as a result of just like having those, like setting those goals high, it then pushes you to achieve more, and just like it stops you from actually time wasting because you know like this is what I have to have done in the next 3 to 6 months, and if it's not done, then I'll be held accountable. So it's just about then having those goals set high because then it pushes you to achieve more and make every day more productive.
Yeah, it's and it's with goals and targets. Yeah, I'm always very cautious with those because we have a habit as humans to then beat ourselves up if we don't achieve them. Yeah, and the beating up is not conducive then to like continuing forward. So actually, yeah, it's always good to set goals, but if you don't achieve them, instead of beating yourself up about them, just kind of look back and actually think about, okay, so how far have I actually come, and celebrate how far you've come instead of kind of like commiserating about the fact that you didn't achieve the goal. Celebrate how far you've come, and then recalibrate, and then move forward again.
Definitely, because then by taking that like step back and just simply analyzing the situation you're in, it then gives you that sort of like that head start to not only put things into place but act accordingly.
Yeah, as one of the things that's quite common is we overestimate what we can achieve in a year, and we underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years. So if you use that, that kind of analogy, and you start to apply that, and then when you don't hit a goal, if you just look back and see how far you've come, then you'll find that you are making progress.
I think that's actually really important because as a result of just like simply maybe even like going over it like every 3 months, just going over your goals, it then puts you in a place to be in like sort of that like observation mode, and then you're then able to focus on like where you were, where you are now, and how long it should take you to get to your goal in the end. So just by doing that, it then simply maintains focus and make sure you're on the right track. And if you had to be another person for one day, who would it be and why?
That's a good question, and I had to think about this because I've never wanted to be anyone else. Is the truth. But if I had to be like someone, if I had to have the characteristics, of someone, it would be someone like Nelson Mandela, who had a kind of vision for what he wanted to achieve, had no idea whether it was achievable or how it was going to be achieved, but had an inner belief that it was possible, and it maintained that inner belief regardless of what happened to him. So even at his darkest moments, when everything seemed like it was impossible, he still had an inner belief that he could do it, and that inner belief kept him just keep moving forward. So he didn't let any outside influences or any outside opinions move him from his belief. He just kept rigid in the belief that he could create change, and eventually change came as a result of that.
And I think that's actually really important because then as a result of just like having that self-belief, you're then able to like push yourself beyond any limitations you may have even set for yourself, because you're not allowing that person to say like, oh, you can't do it. You're just simply maintaining like laser beam focus on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's it.
And what are your views on the word legacy, and what legacy would you like to leave?
So, I mean, legacy has different meanings to different people. For a lot of people, legacy is leaving an inheritance to their children. For me, legacy is about creating change and creating lasting change. So it's kind of like a moment in time that switches something, and it doesn't have to be in huge numbers of people. A legacy can just be you've had an impact on one individual person. And if you've been able to impact that one individual person, and that's changed the course of their life, which is then, so I'll rewind a little bit. You can have influence and you can leave legacy in different ways. Yes, you can either try and impact as many people as possible and focus on trying to reach hundreds of thousands of people as an influencer, or and from a legacy perspective, you can have the frame that actually, I've only created a legacy if it's impacted millions and millions of people and I've directly been involved in that. Or the other way you can look at it is actually, how do I have the most impact? So for me as an entrepreneur who works with other business owners, the way I can have the most impact is not by trying to work with 500 different businesses. It's by working with a few very carefully selected businesses that have the ability through their product or service to have huge impact. So if I can work with the CEO or the managing director of that company and change him, instead of trying to change 500 people, I change him, knowing that by changing him, I then have an impact on all of his staff and then all of his customers. So by impacting one person, I can impact 1 million people instead of trying to impact 1 million people in one go. And that works the same for legacy. If I can impact and change one person, and that one person then goes out and changes their brother and sister, and their brother and sister then go out and change the lives of some of their friends, then that ripple effect means that actually my impact and my legacy has been far greater. So I don't necessarily measure legacy by this kind of grand idea. Legacy can just be changing one person. And if I think about what legacy would I like to leave, I believe that what we're doing with Simply Conscious has the ability to leave the type of legacy that I would want to leave, and that's bringing people back to who they are at their core, bringing people back to their true essence, and allowing them to see the true genius, the true creators that we all are as humans. And if we can influence just a few people and help just a few people make that change, then that's a legacy.
I think that's actually really important, because then, as a result, just like getting clear on what legacy means to you, it then puts you in that perspective of like, this is what it means to me and what legacy I actually leave. And as a result, it then helps you to then not only go out into life every day and make every day like useful and have a good impact on anyone who you come into like a connection with, but then it also just pushes you to strive for more and better things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what advice would you then give to your younger self?
Advice would I give to my younger self? Not to take so personally what other people say. And not to be influenced by other people's opinions.
I think that's a huge one that many people are actually they're actually allowing it to get to them, because like in today's day and age, how like technology is moving so fast, social media is like a huge thing for loads of people. So they're thinking like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna say? Other things like that. But it's about like just being content with yourself, and then you're then able to like have that self-belief and resilience to understand like that this is what you believe in and this is where you want to get to, and like that nothing else is going to get in the way.
Yeah, it's for sure. And you kind of like raised in this day and age, the truth of the matter is it's harder than ever. We kind of like as an older generation, we often kind of think that children or the younger generations have got it easy because technology is there, but actually the reality is far harder, because everyone's living this life behind a screen. Everyone's kind of like portraying these perfect lives, these perfect identities, which we all try to match up to, and it's not reality. So I think the important thing is that we realize that we're perfect as we are, and there isn't anything to strive for. Most of what we see on social media is just a facade. It's something that people put out there because they want to be seen, they want to be liked, but it's not necessarily who they are. And actually, the people that have the most impact are the people that are genuine, and the people that are authentically themselves, rather than the people that put on a show for the camera, and then a completely different character when they're off the camera.
I think that's actually just like really important, because then as you're sort of just like being awake and like seeing that facade that people are trying to show to you, it then puts you in a different perspective. Because let's say that you may have seen that person and you're like, oh, I want to have what she or he has, and it's about just like realizing that you may not be willing to do what they did to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And that, everyone has different reasons for things. The thing that drives one person to huge success is not necessarily going to be replicable by you, because you don't have the same drivers. You see examples of a lot of very successful business owners had extremely difficult childhoods, and it was that drove them. And it's that that's driven them forward. It's that that's given them the drive to keep going. And sometimes we look at them as they are now. They're almost like the finished product, and we aspire to be like that, but we don't know the journey they went through to get there. And then we beat ourselves up because we can't emulate it. And the reason we can't emulate it is because we didn't have the same struggles, and we're not seeing things in the same way. We haven't got the same drive and the same passion for that particular thing that they had.
I totally agree with that. Definitely. And what are your views on morning routines? Like, do you think they're useful? And if so, why?
On what, sorry?
What are your views on morning routines?
Morning routines. Habits, for sure. I always know that I know the things that if I don't do them, my business suffers, or my mood suffers. So there are specific things. Sometimes I struggle to just keep a morning routine. I have a routine. I have things that I do on a daily basis, but sometimes it's not always possible to just keep them to the morning, because things happen, life happens. So again, I like to keep those types of things quite flexible. And at the same time, if I can't do one of them during the day, I don't beat myself up. I think this is the important thing to remember about any type of habit that you're trying to build, or any type of routine that you put in place for yourself. If for some reason you can't do it on one particular day, it's our default to then beat ourselves up about it. If you're on a diet, and then you have a chocolate bar, you can't then spend the rest of the day cursing yourself because you've had a chocolate bar and the diet's ruined and I'm so bad. And but the reality is, life happens, and instead of beating yourself up around those things, there's just got to move on. So routines are important, but so is flexibility. So I try not to just keep them to. There are things that I do in the morning, but if I can't do them in the morning for any reason, then I just try and do them another time during the day. But they are it's a great way of creating change in your life.
I totally agree with that, because then as a result, just being aware of the fact I get this done, but that's okay, and then doing it at a different time of the day when it's more convenient to you, instead of beating yourself about that, then helps you not waste any time on that, and just get the things that need to be done in the order of what matters most, really.
Yeah. Do you have a morning routine?
Yeah, I do. There's a number of things I do in the morning, but there's been a couple of days where I've had to change it up because I have less time. But
yeah,
I just try to stick to it as much as possible. Yeah.
Good.
Lastly, where can people then find you? if they'd like to find out about any upcoming things that you may have.
Yeah. So the places I'd like to direct people to are simplyconscious.com, which is the big project that we've been working on recently. And the other one is digitalwisdom.co. So that website is not up and running yet. It will be very soon. But that's our kind of like communications agency. And then people can find me on LinkedIn as well if they want to kind of just know a little bit more about some of my backstory, some of my history.
So much for sharing. I'd like to thank you for coming on the Influence Show today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Trey.
Thank you. I really did enjoy it. And also, I'd like to thank you listeners for sticking to the end. And if you guys would like to have your chance to be featured on the show, please do feel free to email the email that you put on the screen, and we can send you guys the application process. And that I hope you guys enjoyed it. And that's it from me. Bye.
Thank you.